Good morning, good evening, wherever you are, whenever you're watching, and thanks for tuning in to the 270 to win it Above the Fray League, brought to you by Coca-Cola. It's the regular season matchup between Joe No Filler Miller and Ryan Martinez. I'm Keegan Fong in the booth alongside Aleksander Lucy, who's here with our Jimmy John's Freaky Fresh preview of this thrilling matchup. Alex.
Yep, this is going to be an interesting match. You know, as we've seen between the commentary and post-game interviews, there's a lasting and honestly nasty grudge between these two players. So this will be a brutal match. Some good old-fashioned hate fighting.
And we love a good rivalry in this league, and none has been fiercer than the Joe-Ryan rivalry. They've met several times in the tournament, several times in the regular season in the past, and it has just been brutal watching them fight back and forth, whether it's dumping millions of dollars into swing states, whether it's wasting money on useless strategies that end up not working, feints, shotgun blasts, everything that you can think of we've seen between these two, and it's only gotten nastier in the commentary between them. Alright, well, it's time to go into the game now as we see which candidates these two will be picking, and as they do, it looks like we're going to see a classic matchup. Joe rocking his John Kerry campaign with Ryan on the Ronald Reagan. And Alex, what kind of strategies are we going to see with these two players?
You know, John Kerry is a very swing state guy. You know, that really plays into his favor. So I think we can maybe expect him to go in states like Arizona, New Hampshire, New York, perhaps, if he's trying to do a town and gown with the swing states. We'll see after this first turn.
Some very fascinating strategy. In fact, John Kerry has gone with something that we typically don't see as a Democrat.
Wow.
Going for the Old South with that key four of Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, Louisiana. That is something we see typically from a Republican player. This is what we would expect from a Reagan player like Ryan. But no, Kerry has gone in, so it will be fascinating to see how Ryan reacts. Historically, we know Ryan is pretty bad at reacting to diverse and different strategies. So it will be just a matter of time as we go into turn two to see how he counters this.
I think you're right. This will be a very interesting something to hold. You know, Joe opted to take Ryan's strategy from him. You know, he can't play his normal route against him if he does it first. So I think that this is going to be a really innovative game. And maybe, just maybe, we'll see Joe Miller's first victory against the machine.
Now, Joe Miller has been historically bad at getting the African-American vote, even as he was in his phase of playing Barack Obama. That, to me, is just baffling, and I don't understand how that's possible, but it's possible with this new strategy that he picks this African-American bonus up pretty quickly. That certainly will be a help.
I think you're right. You know, this is a play style that will let him get it a lot easier than normal. However, you know, Illinois is going to be a little bit of a thorn in his side. But depending on how Ryan goes with this, whether he goes for more of a manufacturing type of state pattern, maybe he won't necessarily impede Joe Miller that much in obtaining the ever-elusive African-American vote.
And we see Ryan sticking to the old reliables, the Texas, Illinois, Ohio. He is going for bulk when it comes to electoral votes, and that costs bulk in money. He's yet to pick up a state group yet. That may be a detriment. I know we're only in turn 4. What do you expect to see from the Ryan camp?
Well, he just picked up manufacturing base, and I think that, you know, it was about time. He really needed it to make sure that he wasn't going to fall too far behind. And we see he's also gone for Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, so I think he's sticking true to manufacturing, really trying to pick up all those chunky states. You know, the problem is he's only going to have a few, and that's going to really leave himself open to attack, especially with Joe Miller, who's basically solidified his whole position and has nothing to do but attack.
And that is something interesting we're seeing. Joe, now that he's solidified his position in the South, is going outward from the South. He's going into states that tangentially relate, whether that be through swing states or some other state group. So it will be interesting to see where the first conflicts of this match are going to end up being. It's turn 5, and it's possible that we start seeing some money getting burned.
All right, Joe Miller has picked up New York, it looks like, while Reagan has picked up California. So some of the really big states are beginning to fall out. I think with California, Reagan is going to be looking to try and secure the oil vote. So perhaps they'll start gunning for some of those overlaps with Joe Miller in the Southwest.
And I think it's important to note, too, with California and Illinois, Reagan can pick up 3 state groups just out of that. That's Latino, that's oil, and that's agriculture. That is going to be key if he wants to pivot into the states that John Kerry is currently in. 10 seconds left
It
in
will
turn
be.
6. Let's see where this money goes. Kerry spending 400, Reagan with his 330. No conflicts just yet, though Kerry did pick up the African American vote. That is something you don't see with a Joe Miller placed out, but it's going to be fascinating with the strategy to see what he can do with that money.
He has put into Wisconsin and Ohio. This is where things are going to start getting interesting. Will they be able to snatch some states away, or will Ryan have a stalwart defense?
And it's just a question of, can Ryan, with his manufacturing money, hold off the wave that Kerry has with his with his swing state money. I'm sorry. In the meantime, Reagan's got to be focused on locking up that Cali bonus, but it's going to be dicey on if he gambles on these 3 states that you can see Joe Miller is currently in.
Yeah, he's got a lot of money that he absolutely needs to spend, and a lot of places to split it. So we'll see how he divvies it up.
Turn 7 is over. Reagan 183, John Kerry 227, and Kerry's got a lot of money in the bank. Reagan's been trying to catch up, but taking so long on that manufacturing certainly hurt him early on. I have to say, Joe Miller is looking like he's in a good position right now, especially on the attack, putting money into Illinois last turn. And as you can see, he's in 4 of those Midwest states. And for Ryan, it's going to have to be a guessing game on where Joe Miller goes on the attack.
That is true, but on the contrary, like you were mentioning earlier, Reagan just picked up 4 state groups. And that's no less than nearly $300,000 of additional money. He's practically doubled his spend. And I think we'll expect him to be able to go on that offense a little bit more.
So we've gotten out of the early game, and we're now in the mid game, which historically is where you failed, Alex. So as a loser when it comes to mid game, what are some losing strategies that these candidates want to avoid?
Yeah, you certainly don't want to focus primarily on defense. If you're always on the back foot, always trying to stop people from taking from you, you never get a chance to really branch out, and that hurts you in the end game. The middle game is all about setting up for the end game, and if you don't, get the job done in the beginning, you won't be able to even think about doing it right at the end.
So we can see John Kerry went all in on Ohio, actually won Ohio. John Kerry has actually won Ohio. What a shock. In the meantime, we also see Ryan going into Iowa. Will that be enough? Probably not, but he's got to go on the attack in some other states as we close out of turn 9, going into turn 10. Let's see where this money goes. John Kerry retains his lead, picking up 44 electoral votes, 308 to 227. Some minor conflicts, 20 grand each, but not too crazy. Despite all that, it's still anybody's game. And now at this point, we'll pitch down to our on-field reporter, Spencer Dugan, who's live at the Joe Miller camp. Spencer.
Joe, you have to run us through your thought process in, as a Democrat, opening up against the Deep South.
Now, historically, the Democrats' greatest successes in the New Deal were as a result of that southern pull, like with figures like Huey Long in Louisiana. And you had some truly progressive politics in the South in the 30s and in the 40s, where I think the Kerry campaign, we have looked at that, and we think that's an opportunity to really grow our voter base.
All right, one last question, Joe. Are you at all concerned about the growing Republican presence in large states like Illinois and Texas?
I'm going to pass it back off to our brilliant commentators in the booth. Thank you so much, Spencer. I appreciate your work.
Thank you, Spencer. Turn 11, and we see some interesting play going on. There are states where both these candidates are in. Across the board, we see some locks coming in Florida and in Louisiana. Money is going everywhere. Alex, what are you keeping your eye on?
I'm going to keep my eye on those states up in the northeast, kind of, that Rust Belt. We have Pennsylvania, Maryland, Virginia, I think Wisconsin, and maybe West Virginia. There's a lot of states that have conflicts in that area. And, oh, wow, $900,000, it seems, like totally ruined by the combined from the two of these guys. So I think that who wins these conflictions is really going to make or break this election.
Yeah, it looks like Pennsylvania is becoming an absolute money pit. However, with John Kerry being in such a lead in that state already, it honestly looks like Reagan's on his back foot when it comes to these fights. And it certainly doesn't help the fact that Kerry locked in Iowa, one of those states they were fighting over. So it's going to be an uphill battle, but I would still not rule out Ryan just yet. He's got plenty of time. It's not final ballot yet. He's got time to get into Kerry states, put him on a defensive. We'll just have to wait and see.
Yep, and as Reagan ends his term with only 2 seconds to spare, this is going to be tight. You know, this is the part of the game where speed is key. And with so many different places to fight, it's going to be difficult for these candidates to really keep up with all the places they need to secure.
And with ballot coming in next turn, it is turn 13, and we have John Kerry 298, Reagan 240. Though Reagan is in a considerable amount of Kerry states, we'd have to see a major last-minute push for something to drastically happen to this electoral vote count. But we will still be keeping an eye on, especially those states in the South, where there's still a solid chunk of votes to be seen.
And I think most held by Reagan, you know, even though he's only got a few in them, you know, that's enough to keep the victory. Because, as we know, you can only put in 2 on your first spend.
Yeah, it's going to be key to see if Ryan can capitalize on some last-minute flips as the seconds tick down. Here we go. Both candidates are getting to the end of their turn. It's going to be final ballot with Reagan at 240, John Kerry at 298. Let's watch and see what happens. Starting off with the state of Alabama, Reagan makes an attempt, but Kerry successfully fends him off. Alaska with the
Georgia has changed hands. That is big.
Can Reagan mount a comeback? We see a Reagan defense in the state of Kentucky.
Oh, he loses Maryland in return?
Yeah, that one's gonna hurt. Up next, we see Mississippi, the Magnolia State, flipping for Ronald Reagan.
He holds Oregon. That was an important place to defend.
And it looks like he'll be able to hold on to West Virginia, but that will not be enough. And that means John Kerry will win the match, 283 to Reagan's 255. An upset victory for Joe Miller over Ryan Martinez. What a match and what a rundown near at the end.
You know, valiant effort from the Reagan campaign, but he just couldn't quite do it.
Well, folks, that's going to be it for the matchup. We got to see an exciting one today. The upset victory, Joe Miller defeating the favorite, the perennial favorite, Ryan Martinez, in a tight one. Stick around for post-game interviews. I'll be interviewing our winner, Joe Miller, and Alex will be with Ryan Martinez. You won't want to miss it. Do a commercial, quickly.
Hey, if you have a car that you don't need anymore, think about donating it to Cars for Kids. KARS, Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
All right, folks, thanks for staying with us. I don't even remember who I said I was going to interview. I'm here with Joe. Joe, what an upset. What do you have to say? We've seen some smack talk coming from the Ryan camp earlier before this match. What do you have to say in response with this resounding victory?
Now, Ryan's a good competitor. I think I threw him off early with the old South push, and I think he was never able to recover after that. I maintained the lead basically this whole game, and I think earlier in the night when he was saying none of my wins mattered, he should have focused on what his strategy was going to be once he lost the old South. If he did a little bit more time prepping, maybe he would have won this game.
Now, you must be feeling good coming out of this victory, but are you confident this will be able to translate when it really matters when we get to the postseason?
Well, I mean, no offense, Keegan, but commentators like you have been saying this about my fucking career for the past 5 years of, oh my gosh, when's Joe going to win in the regular season? Then when I win in the regular season, it's, oh, when's Joe going to get out of the first round? And then I make it out of the first round, and you're like, oh, what about the second round? I'm in the championship now, and you're like, oh, is he going to win a championship? I've been stepping up my game every single year, and we're coming for the title.
All right, Joe, well, we'll still be waiting for you to not be garbage. Now,
well,
Alex,
fuck you too, Keegan. Fuck you.
Alex, I hear you've got Ryan on the line.
All right, Ryan. Now, there are reporters who said that you said before the game that, oh, it's the same Joe Miller team that I play every year. Fatal last words coming into this game where, you know, right from the start, Joe took victory. You know, you could almost say that you were down 21-0 by the end of the first quarter. And, you know, really, I don't think you were ever able to come back. There were moments, there were flashes where you had momentum, but honestly, you just played a garbage game today. What do you have to say about that?
It is rich coming from Alexander Lucy to be making these kind of statements, first of all. Second of all, you know, just look how Joe Miller reacted when he was finally able to get a win. It just seemed like wins were foreign to him. He doesn't know how to react in the post-game press conferences. And look, I don't know where this idea that he's about to go to a championship game came from. This is a regular season matchup, and we'll meet again. I assure you, this is a good rivalry. You know, I made some mistakes this game that kind of let him open the door to victory. And I don't have any doubt that me and my campaign are going to be able to pick ourselves up after a rough day of matches today against Keegan and Joe.
All right. Well, thank you for coming and talking to us.
All right, folks, that's going to conclude our broadcast at 270 Live today. It's been an exciting matchup. We got to see an upset victory between two fierce competitors. And if you enjoyed today's broadcast, make sure you subscribe to stay tuned for more. I'm Keegan Fong, signing off in the booth. Thanks for watching, and as always, I'll catch you next time on 270 Live.